now. So let's again let me welcome you to our Born to Flourish series of talks. And today there is this second talk. And this is a very special series which we are very happy to have. This is about where Buddhist ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science merge in exploration of human nature and how we are naturally born to flourish. And our speakers today are actually, when you see them, you understand that, yes, this is true. We are born to flourish because they are the good example of that. We have Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, world-renowned teacher of meditation, author of great bestsellers, and founder of Tergar meditation community. We also have Dr. Richard Davidson, one of the most famous neuroscience in the world, as well as professor in the University of Wisconsin Medicine, and the founder of the Center of Healthy Minds for Healthy Minds. And we have Cortland Dahl, Dr. Cortland Dahl. He is the Chief Contemplative Officer in the Center for Healthy Minds, as well as CEO of Tergar International and senior instructor in our Tergar meditation community. So I'm very happy to welcome all of you and hand over to Court.
Thank you so much, Dinara, and thank you for joining us from all over the world. It was really heartening to see all the different countries represented. I know it's quite late for some of you. I think actually in the middle of the night for some of you, and for others, it's in the morning or in the afternoon. So wherever you are in the world, welcome. It's fantastic to have this great group together, and of course, a great honor to join you, Mingyur Rinpoche and Richie, for another dialogue. And thank you, Dinara, for kicking this off. So today, the topic is distraction. This is something that probably touches every single one of our lives, something that each of us is dealing with. So we're going to hear a lot about the ancient wisdom of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, both on how we view distraction, but more importantly, how we can train the mind and train our attention to tap our full potential for awareness. And of course, from Richie, we're going to hear some of the latest science on this topic. So it should be a really exciting talk. I thought I'd start with a short story. We are hearing a lot of great stories from people around the world. And I think if you joined the session last week, you know that this whole series of discussions is actually the basis for a book that Rinpoche and Richie and I are writing together. So this is a way for us to have the discussion not only together and with and in front of all of you, but most importantly, actually, because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories. So I think Dinara mentioned the email list that you can sign up for. That's how we'd like to stay in touch. And also where you can share some of your own personal journey, your stories, and some of those stories we hope to actually bring into our book and to share with others, because it's so helpful to hear about others' experience. So one of the really touching stories that we've heard that touches upon the distraction epidemic that we're all dealing with comes from a man named Jason, who, when he told the story, was the father of a few young daughters, had a very busy life, and he had this moment that was a wake-up call for him in his own life in the way that many of us have had in our lives. So he had just picked up his young daughter from school. I think she was around 6 or 7 years old. They were driving home, and they walked in the door, and his daughter was excitedly telling him all about her day and having met some new friends, and was very animated and just sharing something important that had happened to her that day in school. And for those of you who have kids, you know that at that age, when they're 6 or 7, everything is new, everything's excited. So his daughter was really excited to tell him about all these things that had happened in her day. So they were walking in, and he was listening like many other days. And then suddenly his phone started vibrating in his pocket. And he had had a really busy day, and there were some important things going on at work. And without even thinking about it, he pulled his phone out. And before he knew it, he was checking his messages and reading something that had come in from his boss earlier in that day about an important project that was going on at work. And he completely lost touch with what his daughter was saying. And at a certain point, he was sitting there scrolling through his phone, and his daughter tugged on his shirt sleeve and said, "Daddy, why do you love your phone more than you love me?" And it kind of makes me even emotional thinking about that. I have a son myself, and I can imagine how painful that was to hear. And of course, he immediately put his phone down and put it back in his pocket and apologized. And he wanted to say, of course, I don't love my phone more than I love you, to his daughter. And he did his best in the moment to reassure her and to bring his attention back. But it was a wake-up call to him in that moment that there had been countless moments like that where he wasn't paying attention to the people that he loved most in his life and to the things that were the most meaningful and important in his life. And he started to see that this wasn't what she was saying wasn't an accident. It was actually part of a pattern, something that he had allowed to happen. So you might not have kids. This might not be exactly your experience, but I'm guessing that everybody here today has had moments like this where you had a person who was really important to you, or perhaps something you were doing that really required and needed your full attention, and yet your mind was pulled into something else. Maybe you were pulled into checking messages on your phone or distracted by something else, or you simply found yourself doing something that maybe wasn't all that important instead of focusing on what was right in front of you. So we are living in an epidemic these days where our attention is being hijacked in a million different ways, a million times every single day of our lives. Our attention is being pulled without our own conscious choice and intention to things that don't necessarily matter all that much. We're all experiencing this at a societal level, but it feels very personal. So part of it is simply the world we live in, that the world is hijacking our attention. This is happening in ways that are quite unprecedented from a historical point of view. The other side of that is that few of us have the ability to train our attention. Few of us have the ability to resist the pull of distraction and to resist all the many things that hijack our attention. So it's this combination of the world around us and our own inability to resist all of these forces in our lives that have led us to this moment where the epidemic of distraction, although it's not a new thing in human culture, has really reached unprecedented levels. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about the challenges, the problems, but more importantly, this amazing potential that we all have to shift things in a very different direction. So Rinpoche, I wanted to ask you something, because this, of course, feels like a very 21st century problem. Most of us have lived through this world in which we created mobile phones, we've created social media, and we've lived to see these changes in our culture, and we've lived to see how this has affected our mind and our attention. But this is not a new problem. And I wonder if you could speak to the Buddhist perspective on this and the focus on attention that you find even in the very ancient, most ancient teachings in this tradition.
Yes, thank you, Cortland, and welcome everyone. So in the ancient teachings, what we call our mind is like a monkey mind. So the monkey mind has some kind of like energy, so what we call prana. So prana meaning like wind element, is moving all the time. The traditional example is the prana is like horse, and our mind is like rider. So normally horse is a little bit wild, kind of like horse, and then the rider is a little bit crazy. When these two come together, then the lot of problem comes, troubles like kleshas, sufferings, all this comes. So, and normally what we do is we try to solve this problem by distraction. So when we engage with something, we feel quite happy for some time. For example, if nowadays people are really looking with the smartphone, right? Quite happy for that certain level. Then sometimes you leave the smartphone, you suddenly feel bored. Oh, I need to talk to with my friends. And maybe you talk to with your friends and you feel like, oh, they're so noisy, too many of them. I want to come to home and then relax on your bed. And after 3 minutes later, oh, television. What should I do next? So that's restless energy, the crazy monkey. Or another example, traditional example, is what we call bird on the tree. So the small bird on the tree, like jumping from branch to branch, and then it's eyes all over the place. So then what happened? Normally that energy, like when I was young, that energy, if you don't know how to deal with that, like I don't know how to deal with that at the beginning, then that create another distraction. So maybe I have panic attacks. It's kind of like a form of distraction. So what we call the monkey mind giving job itself. Monkey mind love job because it's restless. Then it will create some kind of like what we call spider net. So you're stuck there. Then you have a lot of good job, continued job. So job is suffering normally. So then we go under whatever that circumstances or emotional problem or social or relationship or problem with the boss, friends, family, colleague, social. So we stuck in there. And that keeps our mind busy. So monkey mind is quite happy because monkey mind got the job. But the problem is then it will zoom into the reality. Then what we call, we are making mountain out of molehill. Small thing, but we make huge. So normally I give example about, so in your life, everything's okay. If you have big problem, you struggle with that problem, monkey mind happy because struggle, there's a lot of energy need to spend and a lot of struggle, a lot of movement. If you can solve that problem, then monkey mind got the holiday for maybe a few days, few weeks. Then monkey mind begin to worry. Oh, I need to find new job. So maybe new job, you go to the bathroom and look at the mirror and you find one small problem in your chest, in your face. Maybe my right cheekbone is bigger than left cheekbone. Oh, this is not good. What should I do? You know, and you look at the mirror, right side, the left side. And then you're having breakfast. While you're having breakfast, oh, my crooked cheekbone, you're thinking about that. Then if you go to your workplace, if you are very busy, monkey mind is now involved with the work. You will forget about the crooked cheekbone for some time. And 5 p.m., you finish your work, come to home, cheekbone, my crooked cheekbone. So you go to the bathroom, look at the mirror again. Oh, it's really quite big here, you know. Should I do the plastic surgery? But difficult to do plastic surgery with the bone, right? And then you're thinking about that. Then now monkey mind is quite happy, creating new job. And then I think Cortland knows about the brain things in the neurons are normally is gossipy, what I call gossipy neurons, and they talk each other and make new groups, and they all talk about the crooked cheekbone. Then after that, when you go to your workplace, even you're busy, you will still think about the cheekbone. After a certain level, it's become huge. You think, my boss is looking at my cheekbone. She is looking at my cheekbone. He is looking at my cheekbone. My colleague, my friend, my boss is not happy about me because of my cheekbone. I lost that job because of my cheekbone. After a certain level, then it's become 24 hours. Even your sleep, it becomes. So that is the distraction that there's some kind of like what we call movement, energy aspect in our mind. If you don't know how to handle that, if you don't know how to guide that, that create the suffering, like what we call samsara, meaning trap, like spider net. And this is not something new. So nowadays, everywhere is like that. Now what happened is people try to please that distraction, right? Like first time I went to amusement park, Great America, and I was quite shocked, there's something to see, and suddenly there's some dancing, someone selling you ice cream, and then there's so many like a roller coaster, and all the 5 sense direction open at the same time. So quite happy in that 1 hour, 1 or 2 hours. But you cannot keep like that. Even you have the most beautiful thing to see, most best music, best smell, best food, best sensation, whatever you have, after a certain level you feel bored again. You want to look something new. That is the nature of the monkey mind. But in the ancient time, we have that, they know the secret of the mind, how to work with the mind. So this is why these ancient teachings are really amazing, that how we can transform our mind within ourselves. So no need to always feed with the external circumstances and object.
Thank you, Rinpoche. It's kind of amazing to me because it feels like such a current problem, the prevalence of distraction. And I know when I first started meditating and when I started learning about Buddhism, it was fascinating that this is such an ancient problem, and it's one of the first things you learn about when you learn to meditate. Even in the very classical traditional teachings on meditation, it's all about distraction and how you train the mind. Richie, I'm curious what your point of view from a scientific perspective. What is obviously it's not a new problem, but we are experiencing a very different version of this ancient problem. What does the science have to say?
Yeah, so thank you, Cord, and thank you, Rinpoche. It's great to be here. More than 100 years ago, William James, in his book, The Principles of Psychology, wrote about distraction. He has a whole chapter on attention, and he said that the faculty of bringing back a wandering mind over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. And so William James, more than 100 years ago, was very familiar with the nature of distraction and the problems that distraction brought about. What's different today, I think, sometimes I phrase it as that we are all living in or we are all part of a grand experiment for which none of us have provided our informed consent. And the grand experiment is being exposed and subjected to this continuous stream of information that is being directed toward us just constantly. And this has led to a further exacerbation, really to an epidemic of distraction. There are scientific findings that show that if you compare kids today on a standard objective measure of attention compared to the same objective measure of attention that was given to the same age children 50 years ago, the kids today are performing significantly worse. And of course, we don't know exactly why, but I think most people would agree that at least one important ingredient to the increased distraction that our kids today are displaying is this constant exposure to information. One of the ways that scientists think about it is we think about attention in two major forms. One form of attention we talk about as stimulus captured attention, where our attention is pulled by information that's going on in our external world or in our internal world, in our mind, in our body. The other kind of attention we think of as more self-directed. There's a term that scientists use that is endogenous. We can voluntarily regulate our own attention. And these days, our attention is so pulled by external forces around us that we are losing our ability to cultivate the skills that are required to direct our attention internally. And one of the really sad facts that has been observed is that we're so pulled by external events, and we're as Rinpoche has described, when the mind is pulled by these external events, it's giving the monkey mind a job to do, and we're so accustomed to this that for many people it's uncomfortable to actually just pay attention to their own mind, just be aware of their own mind. And there's a scientific experiment which was done about 10 years ago now with several hundred people. And they had participants wait. They were told to wait, and the experiment will begin in another 15 minutes. And they were given the option of doing some things while they wait, or just to simply sit and, quote, think. And it turns out that one of the things that they were given the option to do is to literally shock themselves. The experimenter said that there's a shock apparatus here, and if you want to test it out, please feel free to test it out. And 67% of the men who were tested in this experiment, 67% were shocking themselves rather than simply sitting and resting. They were more disposed to fill their mind with something, in this case, what was available, which was shocking themselves, than to simply sit and rest. And so this is really a sad commentary on how addicted we've become to all the external information around us, and how challenging it can sometimes be to simply rest with our own mind. And this is where I think the importance and the power of the simple practices that we're given from the Buddhist tradition to train what is really an innate capacity. We all have the capacity to regulate our attention. And as William James said, this capacity is crucial for judgment, character, and will. Those are his terms. But we need to exercise this capacity. And that's something that we're fortunate to have from the Buddhist tradition, instructions on how to do that.
You know, it's amazing that this gets in the way of our relationships. It shows up in all these small moments in our lives. And at times it's flat out dangerous. I have this experience of I often drive from Chicago to Madison, and oftentimes flying, it's quicker and sometimes even cheaper simply to take an Uber back from the airport in Chicago to Madison. It's a couple-hour drive. And there's been times, in fact, there's one specifically I remember where there was an Uber driver for making this 2-hour trip, and he was constantly checking his phone. It got so bad that I literally said, either you pull over and put your phone down, or I'm just getting out and I'm finding another driver. And he finally put it down, but it was amazing to me. We're driving 70 miles per hour down the highway, and the guy's watching YouTube. You know, and I'd like to say that, like, I've never had that impulse. I certainly don't do that, but I can empathize with the pull, because we're constantly getting messages, we're constantly getting little triggers on our attention. So this affects our lives in so many ways that would have been unthinkable years ago. So one of the beauties that you've both mentioned here is that it doesn't have to be this way. We have this incredible capacity to train attention. So Rinpoche, I wonder if you could walk us through the distraction meditation that you often lead. It's such a sobering and yet helpful way to start getting in touch with just how distracted the mind is and yet the amazing potential of awareness as well. So maybe if you could walk us through a short practice, that'd be great.
Thank you. So how to work with this distraction? There are many practices. So if we know the secret of our own mind, then we know how to work with it. So of course, these teachings comes later, but the one of the first important technique is kind of like the what we call the first big steps of the inner transformation is it's a big secret. So the one of the first important practice is just recognizing that you're lost. Or like when you're angry, recognizing you're angry. You don't need to stop the anger. You don't need to fight with anger. You don't need to say no angry, because most of the time when we do that, it helps a little bit. Then after a certain level, anger comes. Then after that, we feel very bad. Oops, too late. So here, this technique, the first step is you don't need to get rid of anger. You don't need to follow particular anger, but you just catch, what we call catch. Oh, I'm angry. At the beginning, just for a few seconds, even half, 2 seconds, 1 second, it's really powerful. Then you have choice, you have freedom. I think Richie also will mention more about this later. There's a lot of, there's some scientific research there. Or another way is you just recognize that you're lost. So now here, we will do one special practice, which is to get lost. It's a little bit funny practice. Normally, all the meditation techniques said, be mindful, don't get lost. But now here, what I'm saying is, don't be mindful, get lost. So you know how to get lost, right? All of you? I think we are the master of how to get lost, right? The distraction is quite easy. But there's one condition. When you lost, raise your hand. So you can raise your hand in front of screen. Although I cannot see you, but you can see my screen. But if you not lost, you cannot raise your hand. If the mindfulness come back or awareness come back, you cannot raise your hand. So make sure if you raise your hand, you have to lost awareness, lost mindfulness. Okay? So please, everybody, keep your spine loosely straight wherever you are. Just relax. And then first, feel your body. Relax muscles in your body. What we call mind and body together. And you might feel gravity in your body, or the temperature, cold and warm. Or you might feel pleasant, unpleasant, neutral sensations in your body. Just be with it. Just feel those feelings and sensations in your body. And just relax. And now, please get lost. When you lost, raise your hand like this. Okay? And if you lost again and again, it's better. The more loss is better for this meditation. Why? I will tell you later. So please get lost. Don't forget to get lost. Hopefully, you're lost and you're raising your hand. Okay, how was it? So how many of you easy to lose? Raise your hand. And not so easy to lose, raise your hand. So normally, although I cannot see you, but normally what happened, there's two things happen. One, difficult to lose. When you say get lost, not easy to lose. Very good. You're not lost. Wonderful, right? Or second thing is, if you raise your hand, 100% sure you're not lost. So this is why I'm telling you, when you lost, raise your hand. What we call, when you know you're lost, you're not lost. When you know you are distracted, get lost, that means you come back. The awareness come back. Mindfulness come back in that moment. So you feel like you wake up. You feel like you have become alive, right? Though sometimes there's no particular object. It's just sense of presence, sense of being. So that is the most important kind of like a practice, that transformation, base for transformation our mind to the good way, to the inner peace. So I hope all of you get some taste of this experience, and you can try this with the many different things, like panic also, like hatred also, or maybe we have involuntarily a lot of habits. If you recognize, then it's really easy to change and transform. Thank you.
So this is the simplest thing in the world. Simply noticing what's going on in your own mind, simply noticing the pull of distraction, noticing when your mind does get pulled into distraction. And it's, of course, something you can do as a formal practice when you meditate. This is profoundly helpful to do as a daily life practice. So let's actually do this together. Richie's going to tell us a little bit more about the science. Keep this going as a practice. Imagine that this is a skill and you're now practicing it, in this case, when you're just listening to somebody, giving somebody your attention. So as Richie talks, notice if your mind gets pulled into other things. If you're listening on your phone, maybe you want to open some app where you start noticing something else going on in the world around you. Or if you're watching on your computer, maybe you start checking your email. It could be a million things. Simply notice that. That is the only point here, getting used to noticing your own state of mind. So Richie, let us, maybe explore a little bit more about what is going on in the brain and what the research has to say about the science of distraction.
Yes, happy to do that. And I'll try to keep it sufficiently interesting so that none of you are distracted. So the first question we might ask is, why are humans so prone to distraction? And are we more distracted than other species? And it seems that we are. And one of the reasons we are is because of this big hunk of real estate that all of us have in the front of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a part of the brain that is in humans larger than the rest of the brain mass. And it's larger in humans proportionally than it is in any other species. And this prefrontal cortex gives us the capacity for what psychologists and neuroscientists have called mental time travel. We can anticipate the future and we can reflect on the past in ways that other species are unable to do. And so this obviously confers many advantages, but it also has disadvantages. And the disadvantages are that we can be consumed by distractions that involve worrying about the future or ruminating about the past so that we're not fully in the present. There's a famous neuroscientist at Stanford University by the name of Robert Sapolsky, and Robert wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And to summarize the book in one sentence, the reason why zebras don't get ulcers is because they have a very small prefrontal cortex. They don't worry about the future or ruminate about the past. They're much more in the present. So this is the starting conditions, if you will, that we begin with. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about the external world and how it is increased in complexity and is constantly hijacking our mind. A recent study in the US showed that the average American opens their phone 151 times a day. I think most of us would agree that opening your phone that many times is just not necessary. And yet, having a phone available is such a powerful source of distraction. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's a very well-known study that was done a number of years ago with several thousand people where they were queried on their smartphone several times a day with their permission, and they were asked 3 questions each time. The first question is, what are you doing right now? And participants had to check off from a list of activities what they were doing. The second question is, where is your mind right now, right at the moment that you were queried? And the third question is, how happy or unhappy are you right at this moment, right when you were asked? And so what these scientists found is that the average adult was not paying attention to what they were doing approximately 47% of the time. 47% of the time, they reported that they were thinking about something other than what they were doing. And on this third question about how happy or unhappy they were, what they found is that when participants were not paying attention to what they were doing, they were significantly less happy. And the title of this scientific paper is "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." And so this is really important because it begins to make this link between our capacity for attention and awareness and distractibility and our mental health. And so being able to stay focused on what we're doing is associated with greater levels of well-being and happiness. One of the important distinctions that we make, and this is something that was first described in an article that Cort and I and some others wrote a number of years ago, is a distinction that is often confused in the popular literature between flow, where we're totally merged with what we're doing. Our minds, in the language of Rinpoche, we're giving the monkey mind a job to do, and it's fully consumed, but we're not aware of what we're doing. We don't have this background awareness. Scientists call this meta-awareness. And so the first instance where we're completely absorbed in what we're doing without meta-awareness, we've called experiential fusion. And that would be like going to a movie theater, watching a movie and being so engrossed in the movie that you no longer are aware that you're even watching a movie. You are no longer aware that you're in a movie theater. And yet you can go to the movie theater, watch a movie, and be fully attentive to the movie with no distraction. And yet in the background, you can recognize that you're in the theater watching a movie. And that is the difference between experiential fusion and meta awareness. And this is a faculty that we all have the capacity for, and it can be trained. And I want to just briefly introduce three major brain networks that are important in understanding the neuroscience of distractibility and awareness. And those three brain networks are these. The first network we call the default mode network. And it's called the default mode network because this is the network that our brains go into when we're not being given any other task. When the monkey mind doesn't have an explicit task, our brains adopt the default mode, which is jumping from one thing to another, and it often involves self-referential thinking about ourselves. It can involve rumination, mind wandering. The second network we call the central executive network. This is a network that is important in directing our attention, in guiding our behavior, in setting goals. And the third network that is important here is what we call the salience network. And the salience network is a set of brain structures that are important for detecting things that are important. So when we are pulled by a distraction, if we get a notification on our phone that our spouse is calling us, we are activating our salience network. It may be something important, and so we direct our attention to that. The interplay among these networks, the default mode network, the central executive network, and the salience network, are really key to developing the skills of meta-awareness or meditative awareness that we can do with simple awareness practices that Rinpoche teaches us. And scientific research shows that the connections among these networks change, and they can change rather quickly as we are cultivating the skills of awareness. In fact, research shows that in less than 50 hours of training, there can be changes in the actual wiring among these networks, the extent to which one network is connected to the other. And so this is really the good news that our brains exhibit this kind of plasticity, and we all can become better at these skills of awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. So I'm curious if any of you noticed your own mind getting distracted. My guess is that what a lot of you may have experienced is simply that it's hard to remember to even look. In fact, that's one of the biggest challenges, is that although this is relatively simple to understand, the pull of habit is such that we forget to do it. So the simple invitation is to start paying attention to your own mental state, and specifically to whether or not you're getting pulled into distraction. One of the images that we like to use is being out on the ocean. Imagine that you're lost in the middle of the ocean, perhaps in the middle of a storm, and you're on a sailboat. And you don't realize that the sailboat has a rudder. The rudder is right there. It's right next to your hand, but you don't realize that you have this rudder. And so what happens consequently is that the winds of the storm you're in are pushing you all over the place. You're going north, you're going south, you're probably going everywhere and anywhere except where you want to go, which is to go home. And yet, that rudder is sitting right there. So the invitation, what Rinpoche is teaching, what Richie is talking about here, is first and foremost to start paying attention, to realize how off course we often are, and to realize that actually, rather than just beating ourselves up or feeling terrible that we're constantly getting swept off course, to realize that actually at any given point in time, we can grab the rudder. We can start to train ourselves. So Rinpoche, I wonder if you could say a little bit about the perspective that we find in the Buddhist tradition, and specifically in your lineage. In the session last week, we talked about this perspective that focuses more on what is going right in experience versus all the things that are going wrong, or focusing on the parts that aren't broken and that don't need to be fixed. So in traditional terms, I'm sure you'll explain this to us, but I wonder if you could just share a little bit about the unique perspective that your tradition would have on distraction.
Yeah. So the how to work with the distraction, as we all know about our mind, is like a monkey mind, not just monkey, crazy monkey mind. So normally our mind is out of control, especially when we say yes, mind says no. I mentioned this last time, like no pizza, and more pizza will come. In the night, when we say, I need to sleep, sleep disappear. So these two things, what we call aversion and the craving. And these two things is part of the spider net that what we call samsara, meaning we're stuck. So we're stuck with these two things, aversion. So not just pizza, normally it manifests with the chick, your own chick, or could be manifest with your spouse, husband and wife, or girlfriend and boyfriend, could be manifest with the boss or colleagues, staff, or could be just simple a table, a spoon, or shoes, a wind, sound, various things. Mine is very tricky normally. And then craving, when you like the neighbors, the grass other side border, other side is more greener, something like that, right? So when the craving comes, then you feel like everything fading away, running away from you. So the basis of this two is what we call ignorant. So now the Cortland mentioned about you're in the ocean, in the boat, and then the wind comes, the wind below the boat, all different direction, you cannot control it. Actually, you can control. You have the rudder. And if you use rudder, and then there's what do you call this?
The mast. Yeah, the mast that the sail is attached to.
Mast, yeah. So together, whatever wind comes from any direction, it will not become the obstacle. You can reach your home. You can use all this obstacle become opportunity. Even the wind comes from the opposite direction, with the rudder, with the mask, whatever, you can go to the right direction. So the important first is we need to recognize. Like recognizing there's a rudder is that we all have this wonderful basic level, we have this wonderful quality. Second, we need to cultivate that, to go to the journey within yourself, what we call liberation, freedom of your own mind. Normally we are not free, right? So that's what we call the traditional, the view that, like when I was young, I began to learn this meditation. My father said, you don't need to fight with the panic attacks, right? If you fight with the panic attacks, panic becomes worse. If you believe to panic, if you surrender, if you lose hope, then panic becomes your crazy boss. So what we have to do is we need to connect with our true nature. So the true nature, that we all have this three unity quality within us 24 hours. So normally I talk about awareness, love and compassion, wisdom. So the more we connect with these three qualities within ourselves, normally we feel more happy. So there is feeling of hollowness, feeling of dissatisfaction, feeling of lonely or a little bit sad. Like distraction comes dissatisfaction, right? You do something, then you feel bored and you need another one, and then you feel bored and then you need another one. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And you go to shopping mall and you buy shoes. Oh, this shoes not enough. Another clothes, this clothes no good. I need to buy a house. Oh, house too small. I need to buy a bigger house, and this is no good. So sometimes what we call this dissatisfaction is very expensive, costs a lot. So why? Because that the deeper level, that feeling of hollow, dissatisfaction, incompleteness, and sad or lonely is what we call dukkha. That is the suffering. And that cause of suffering, of course. But at the same time, that feeling of dissatisfaction, that feeling of hollowness, sad, is the wisdom, what we call. Why? Deeper level, you know that the real happiness, the real home is within you. So no matter how you look outside, you will not really satisfy. You will not feel that hollowness. Even you win the lottery, for a few months, quite happy, but still hollow there, might be there. And after a few months later, hollow become more obvious. That winning lottery is not really helping. So now how to feel that hollowness? Go home. So in the traditional example is what we call the bird nest, when the bird go too far away, but always wanting to return to the nest. Why? The nest is a real home. So we all have that feeling of longingness, wanting to be happy, don't want to suffer. So there's the dissatisfaction, there's a longingness. That is the sign of the basic innate goodness. We have this wonderful quality within ourselves. So maybe I will ask you a question to all of you. How many of you, when you help others, when you do social work, maybe you help your friends, family, or maybe cat, dogs, whatever you can, when you can help others, will you be happy or not? Yes, raise your hand. Normally, we feel happy. And that happiness is really genuine. That feeling of happiness, we feel like it's the right thing. It's like feeling like coming home. That hollowness will feel by that happiness. Happiness from love and compassion. It's very strong. And I think this the scientists do have a lot of research about that. Like for example, if we watch the boring, stupid breathing, when I was young, begin to learn meditation, I feel like boring, watching this stupid breathing every day. What is the benefit? I want to get rid of my panic attacks. The practice is breathing in, breathing out, and tomorrow again, breathing in, breathing out. Not even thinking about panic attacks. So how you can solve this problem? But actually, I think Richie, we have a lot of discussion about these meditation practice. We can change the baseline. So normally the baseline is very difficult to change, even win the lottery or family, marriage, or salary is better. Plastic surgery is even better, but still the baseline difficult to change. But watching boring, stupid breathing can change this baseline. Why? Because we are connecting with awareness. So the basic innate goodness has three unique qualities. Love and compassion is finished. Now I'm talking about awareness. So just being awareness. Then we really feel the happiness. Even baseline can change. Number three, wisdom. So wisdom is learning. Like, of course, education is very important. Study is very important, right? And the most important is to see the nature of reality as they are. So when we learn the nature of reality as they are, we really feel confident. There's a joy, satisfaction, and eventually the real happiness comes. So why we do these three things, we're really happy because the real home, real our true nature is within us. So the more we connect with that, we feel more freedom, more happy. So therefore, the Mahamudra, what we call Mahamudra, my style, lineage style is a Mahamudra style. So in the Mahamudra, we believe that this wonderful quality is like sky, and all this thought, emotion, perception, everything is like cloud or pollution. And these cloud and pollution cannot change nature of sky. So now what we need to do, we have to have that view first. We have to recognize that innate awareness, love and compassion, wisdom, we need to recognize. And through that, then we can go on to practice maybe sometime removal practice, sometime transformation practice, sometime transcending practice. So these three ways we can come back to our home, the real home, which is never leave us, always there and sending us a message, come home, come home. So like wanting to be happy, don't want to suffer is the message from our true nature, that the real home of us is free from suffering. It has lasting happiness. So our home is calling us all the time. So we got homesick normally. And hopefully we all can return to our home soon.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So Rinpoche actually just gave us the really essential key points here. The first, and what we started with, is simply to recognize the problem. We had this story of Jason and the wake-up call that he had when his daughter just clearly expressed that she wasn't feeling loved and cared for because of the distraction he was experiencing. So again, we all have these moments where we just realize this is not the way to live. Something is out of balance in our lives. What Rinpoche is now laying out is that there's really kind of two points in terms of what we do with that. Where do we go with that important realization? When we have that wake-up call, what course of action is available to us? The first thing, and what Rinpoche just talked about, is really the shift in perspective. It's so easy to view all of these experiences of distraction, the other things we're going to talk about in the upcoming sessions, as though we're just broken. We have all these defects in our minds. What Rinpoche is showing here is that a very different approach is to orient to the things that aren't broken. Yes, we might be getting distracted, but awareness is always present. Loving kindness, compassion are always present. Wisdom is always present. So rather than always focusing on the things that are wrong, we orient to these innate qualities that we all have. I'm sure we'll hear from Richie about how these are also innate capacities of our brains, our nervous systems. So that shift in perspective is maybe the most important thing. And then beyond that, once we've made that shift, there's also a practice, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So in the last session, we talked about these three methods. Rinpoche just gave a brief summary of them, but in brief, they are removing, transforming, and transcending. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, but this is the actual practice. So the key thing is that shift in perspective, but then we also need to be practical. We need to look at what's going on in the moment in our lives. And this just gives us a lot of tools in our inner toolbox to work with whatever might be coming up. So Richie, whatever we could turn to you I have a feeling you have a lot of practical experience with this, but perhaps some of the science as well. Let's talk about the first of these. What do we do? What does this idea of removing the causes of distraction have to do with how we can train our minds to be a little bit more centered?
Yeah, so thank you, Court. This is a really important issue, and there's scientific research on this, and there's also, I think, a lot of simple, practical wisdom that we all really have. Um, there are amazing findings that show that the mere presence of a smartphone on a table. So think about meetings that you have participated in, or even family gatherings, friends getting together for coffee. How many times have you noticed when people sit down at a table, people put their phones down on the table? Even if all of the notifications are off, it turns out that the mere presence of a phone that is visible impairs our attention. And this has been established now in really hard-nosed scientific research on rigorous measures of attention. So we have gotten so accustomed to our attention being pulled by smartphones that the mere presence of a phone is like a conditioned stimulus that automatically causes us to be more distracted. So one very simple thing that we can do to remove this cause of distraction is simply to have the smartphone in some other location when we're meeting. And of course, there are times when a person is expecting a call from a doctor or a child, and it's important that they have their phone readily available. But most of the time, we are not in those situations. And we can encourage ourselves and those around us to keep the phone in a place where it's not as present, less visible, to interfere with our ongoing conversation. So I think this is something really important. Another thing that's important is really to when we bring awareness to the distractions in our mind, particularly when we're doing it at the beginning stages of cultivating awareness, we may have the experience of becoming even more anxious, noticing that our minds are more chaotic. We've actually observed in some of our research that in the first week that a person begins to practice as a new meditator, they actually report often increased anxiety and decreased mindfulness. And one of the things that we tell them is that that's great. That means they're actually becoming more aware, because as we become more aware of the chaotic nature of our mind, we actually notice what's going on more. And the very mere fact of awareness is beneficial in helping to remove these sources of distraction. Research shows, and this is work that we've done in our laboratory and also work that a number of other scientists have done, that merely being aware of, for example, an emotional stimulus allows us to regulate that emotional process and to be less distracted by it. So merely being aware of it is a really critical first step in being able to control our mind. And this awareness is really more accessible than I think we typically think it might be. And the simple practices that we've been doing, I think, help to illustrate that awareness is really accessible.
Thanks,
Thank
Richie.
you.
Yeah, I've just as a very practical example of what Richie just shared, I had this moment I can't remember. It was a number of years ago where I had noticed that I had started a habit of bringing my phone into my bedroom, and I would oftentimes check messages before I went to sleep. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have an alarm using my phone for an alarm. So I'd pick up my phone to turn off the alarm, but I wouldn't then set it down. I'd start checking messages or checking the news, whatever the case may be. And at a certain point, I realized this is just not healthy. And I was, if I'm honest with myself, I was having trouble resisting that pull of just grabbing it. So I made a decision to keep my phone and my devices out of my bedroom. I actually do this and have done this for years now. I just leave them in my office. Every night before I go to bed, I come in, I put my phone on its charger, I leave it in my office, I take off my smartwatch, I put that in my office, and then it just doesn't even come into the bedroom. And that has been exactly one of these examples of noticing something that is triggering distraction and just removing it so it doesn't spur that same thing. So again, you can find your own examples, the things that you have in your life that might make that the case. So that's the first of these three methods, the three aspects of the practice, which is removing the causes of distraction. The second that we're going to hear about now is transforming distraction, even transforming the causes of distraction. Rinpoche, what does that mean, and how might we actually practice this in our lives?
Yeah, so how to transform? So now we can transform into support for awareness, love and compassion, and the wisdom. So transform into these three things. So maybe we will do some short practices. I think we all have this monkey mind, right? The loss, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then, and this monkey mind is overthinking, lot of energy. I mean, the energy of restless, cannot keep calm, cannot be quiet. So normally we really, sometimes we don't like it. So now how to transform that monkey mind, that wandering mind, or that lost mind as support for awareness. So of course, I think this is a little bit advanced meditation. So first we need to practice this with the removal practice. Like last time, we've practiced with the breathing, right? So when we lost, we bring out our attention back to the breath. So that's the removing. Another removing is whatever this thought and emotion not bring in action. So your action, your mind can be totally open. Everything's okay, what we call okay with not okay, but your action cannot do that. Everything okay, and you lost with so many things, then become problem. So action form. So these are the removals. So sometimes what we call the first is the kind of like precept, receiving special kind of like commitment to yourself, like I will not bring my smartphone to my bedroom. So something like that is removal. Then we practice this breathing meditation, maybe at least 1 month. If you are very new to meditation, maybe every day 5 minutes, also good. Watch your breath for every day 5 minutes for at least 1 month. Then now we can do the transformation practice. So this time we will try, even you're new, we'll try and let's see. So how to transform that monkey mind as support for meditation is very easy actually. The technique is you watch the monkey mind. You watch the thought, the bala 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 yada yada yada. Emotion is a little bit difficult. We will talk about later. But here now you watch that the bala bala yada yada. Okay? So everybody has thought, right? If you have a thought, raise your hand. Hopefully everybody raise your hand. If you said, I don't have thought, also thought. So how to watch our thought? Just like watching breath, breathing. So breathing come, breathing go, breath never stays, right? Always moving. And our mind watch that moving, to be aware of that, mindful of that moving, then it's become meditation. So now similar, the thought is also moving like breath, come and go and come and go. You watch that thought, just like watching breathing. So try this together. Please, everybody, keep your spine loosely straight. And the first, feel your body. Relax muscles in your body. And feel the gravity in your body. And just relax for a few seconds. So now, please watch the thought. It doesn't matter. Thought about the past, thought about the future, thought about the pizza, thought about the to-do list. Whatever comes in your mind, observe, watch. Just like watching your breath. So please watch your thought. Any thought is okay. Good thought, bad thought, positive thought, negative thought. No need to fight with thought. You just observe. Okay with not okay. Sometimes what we call okay with not okay. Okay. How was it? So how many of you, when you look at a thought disappear, gap? Normally I have a lot of thought. Today what happened? So you cannot easily find thought. Raise your hand. Great. So that is what we call non-conceptual moment. It's not too long. It's just seconds, 1 or 2 seconds. Wonderful. Be with that. How many of you, when you watch thought, you can see thought, you can watch thought? Thought comes, bala, 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 yada, yada, and you can be aware of it. Raise your hand. Okay. If you can see your thought, wonderful. Because now thought become support for awareness. Transform. Normally thought is the problem, right? Too much thought, overthinking. Now there becomes support for awareness. Transform. Just like breathing. So what we call, when you see the mountain, you're out of mountain. When you see the river, you're out of river. When you see the thought or emotion, whatever you have, you're out of that. You're connecting with the sky. So awareness become more than thought, more than emotion. Awareness is watching the thought. And thought is like cloud, comes and goes, comes and goes. So wonderful. So thought not just only becomes support for awareness, but you connect with the background awareness. The observer is the awareness. So now, normally we think this monkey mind is obstacle, but now it's not become obstacle. It is become friend, become support. So transform into friend, transform into support for our meditation, our inner journey. So that's the one example. So you can do that with the love and compassion, transforming hatred, panic, depression. Everything can transform into love and compassion. And the wisdom also. So of course we don't have much time now. So transformations, everything transform as your friend, your support, normally what we call become your path, become your teacher. And special after a certain level, these become the cause of happiness. Normally, it's the distraction. Now they become support for inner well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So Richie mentioned something earlier, which is that the average person picks up their phone more than 150 times every day. Excuse me. Combining that with what Rinpoche said, oftentimes those are 150 moments of impulse, 150 moments of distraction. But what if those were 150 moments of awareness? What if there were 150 moments of kindness or wisdom? So let's just do a very brief exercise just to give you an example of how you can do what Rinpoche is saying and transform things that might otherwise be distracting you or creating other unwholesome states of mind into things that are healthy and bringing more balance. So pick up your phone. Some of you might be watching this on your phone, in which case you're already holding your phone. If you're not, you can grab your phone or something else nearby. And just imagine, what if this was a moment of awareness? Normally, we just grab our phone out of impulse. But as you're holding your phone, just feel the weight of it for a moment. Simplest thing in the world. You're just feeling the heaviness of your phone. But in doing that, you're bringing intention to your own mental state. You're just bringing a little more awareness to that. So now turn on your phone, look at the screen, perhaps scroll through. And do this with awareness rather than out of impulse. Notice the colors. Notice everything you're seeing. So here again, it's the simplest thing in the world. But as Rinpoche was saying, you can transform what might otherwise be the cause of distraction into something that is a catalyst for awareness and presence. So you can continue to do that now, where you're continuing to watch this, to listen. So let's move on to the third of these three categories. We've talked about removing the causes of distraction, which Richie discussed. Rinpoche just talked about transforming distraction into awareness or into kindness and compassion or wisdom. And now the third, and the one that's really linked to this bigger view of orienting to the sky, orienting to what's not broken, is this third step of transcending. So Rinpoche, I wonder if I could ask you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so transcending is the most easiest and most difficult one because it is too easy, too close, that we difficult to see and difficult to believe. Why? Because the nature of all these things, what we call all these things, meaning whatever you're perceiving. So for you, through the eyes you see image, through the ear you hear the sound, and the smell, taste, through the body the sensation, in the mind thought, emotion, perception, happy, not happy, boring, panic, depression, loneliness, anxiety, you name it. Whatever that appear to you has to come through your mind. Your mind is experiencing that. Your mind is labeling that. Your mind is recognizing that. So everything for you has one base. The base is your own mind. So, what is your own mind? The good news is, it's luminosity. It is clarity. It is awareness. Not just that, not just awareness, luminous clarity. It has love and compassion. It has wisdom. So, at the beginning, I talk about the lamp, the candle flame has three unity quality, right? The heat, the yellow color, and the light. are inseparable, but the different aspect. So our mind has this great quality. So for this case, everything is perfect. Everything is luminosity. Everything is love and compassion. Everything is wisdom. So what we call ocean and the wave. So when we see the wave is go up and down. But what is the nature of the wave? It's water, right? When we look at the sky, lot of cloud. Where is this cloud? It's in the sky, in the space. Cloud cannot go beyond sky or space. Though sky is not the cloud, but the cloud is in the sky. Or reflection in the mirror. So we see so many reflections, but what is the background of the reflection is the mirror. Mirror is beyond reflection. Mirror is not the red, not the blue, not the dark, not the yellow. Mirror doesn't have mountain, no, nothing yet appear. So similarly, this fundamental quality of our mind is transcend, meaning beyond. So we just need to recognize. Another example is when we go to the movie theater, what we see is the story on the screen, right? So on the screen, when we see the story, maybe there's a good person, bad person, and then there's different colors. Sometimes there's a very dirty place with the robots, robberies, all these things. Sometimes very nice, look like wonderful place with that the stars, the kindest person on the planet. And there's a yellow color, red color, blue color, black color, white color, so many different colors. But when we look at the essence of that, it's just light. Everything is light, right? The house is light, the person is light, all the colors are light, everything's light. So same thing in our mind, whatever comes, this thought, emotion, perception, happy, not happy, angry, compassion, depression, appreciation, it's just awareness. Everything's luminosity. Everything is love and compassion. Though you may not understand now, when I say everything's love and compassion, I don't understand when I was young. That's difficult. We need to learn step by step. And when I say everything wisdom, also difficult to understand now. Maybe you might understand now a little bit awareness, everything awareness, easy to understand. But don't worry. Normally we need to learn this step by step. But anyway, everything is a manifestation of that luminous mind. So what we need to do is no need to even transform. Just being our mind as they are. So that's the one simple technique. Okay, so maybe we will do one short practice based on the open awareness meditation that I did last time. So this time, just being with your own conscious. So you're not conscious, you're not unconscious, right? How many of you are unconscious? Raise your hand. Hopefully nobody raise hand. But if you raise your hand, that means you're not unconscious. So basically, we all are not unconscious. So that being conscious, being the nature quality of mind is lucidity, is knowing. So just be with that. And you don't need to even look at the breathing. You don't need to even look at the thought and emotion. You don't need to particularly develop love and compassion. When you be as they are, there's a presence, there's awareness, there's innate love and compassion, though that love and compassion doesn't have object. And of course, there's a recognition, the wisdom there. So, try Maybe we will do one deep breathing together. So everybody slowly breathing in. Now, natural breathing and do nothing. And your mind is with you all the time. No matter what you are feeling now, clear, unclear, happy, not happy, all are in the luminous mind. And the fundamental quality of the mind, the awareness itself is beyond concept, so you cannot really describe it, you cannot really find it, but you can experience. How you know you're experiencing that luminous mind? Because you're not unconscious now, you're conscious. You can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can think. Yet all this thought come and go, feeling come and go, emotion come and go in the field of awareness. Okay, so this is the first important practice to go transcend. So no need to remove anything, no need to even transform anything. What we call knowing as they are, discovering the nature of phenomena as they are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. Before we move on, I wanted to maybe talk a little bit more about the practical side of this, because the first of the methods of removing is pretty straightforward. You know, you can work with the causes of distractions, the example of moving your cell phone off your mobile phone off the dinner table or out of your bedroom, or examples like that. It's pretty straightforward. Rinpoche gave a lot of great examples of transforming as well. For example, observing your thoughts, or the example I gave of bringing awareness to your own phone, which might normally cause distraction. Richie, I'm curious with this third one. Of course, you've studied this stuff as a scientist. You've also been practicing these teachings and practicing what Rinpoche is talking about here for a very long time. I'm curious if there's anything from your own daily life when you find yourself getting distracted, or you have a really busy day, as I know you do pretty much every day. I'm curious, what are the things that you do in this realm of transcending that help you actually put this into practice?
Yeah, thanks for that great question, Court. Um, uh, the things that I find myself doing are uh, within the busyness of everyday life. We can very easily, I think, tap into, uh, um, for example, appreciation. Which is another thing that Rinpoche teaches us a lot about, and I find very accessible. So in the busyness of life, going from one meeting to another, even in the moments between meetings, simply uh, allowing awareness to land on appreciation. And in the middle of all this chaos, wow, these are wonderful people. They are doing great things, and it's a privilege to work with them. Those uh, opportunities to really transcend the chaos of the situation, and lean into this underlying quality of of awareness and love and compassion and wisdom is, I think, it becomes more and more spontaneously available. Uh, so that's one thing that I find myself doing a lot, and that helps me navigate the challenges of everyday life. And then, the science is also relevant here because this uh, opportunity to simply be and to just let go is something that we can actually observe in the brain. And we see in very long-term practitioners when they are um, doing something with their attention, they can place their attention in some location, and then their prefrontal cortex just goes offline. It drops out, and it's kind of the neural correlate of just letting go and simply transitioning from this mode of doing to a mode of simply being. And so I think of that often in my everyday life, and uh, harness the opportunities to simply be. If I'm waiting in a line, if I'm driving between meetings, to simply just drop into that quality of being that always is there. It's always part of us. It's really our true nature. And that really is nourishing and gives me a vitality that allows me to lead the kind of crazy life that I lead. So I'm just so grateful for the teachings.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because when I reflected on that the same question myself, how do I actually practice this in my life? It's exactly what you just said. It's little moments and daily rituals of being. And I think what that does is there's this, Rinpoche, earlier you talked about this shift in perspective. And one way of putting that shift in perspective, it's that everything that we're looking for in life, that we are oftentimes searching for, whether consciously or unconsciously, is already here. And it's just so hard to believe that. And so even if we meditate, we can bring a lot of doing energy into our meditation where we just have kind of a spiritual version of that endless looking and endless searching. And when we shift more to being, it just completely shifts into this new perspective, the idea that it's actually already here. And we're learning to tune into something that's already here rather than to have some new and better experience. So for me, exactly what you just said, Richie, is the key to that. Sometimes it's just really brief moments between meetings where I just start with a little moment of awareness and then just rest, just give myself space to simply be, not even to meditate in any effortful way, to simply exist for a few moments before I move on to my next meeting or whatever else is going on in life. And beyond those short moments, which you can have many times throughout the day, I think also recreating rituals of being, because this is something that we've really erased in the modern world and in many cultures, certainly in the US where Richie and I live, there were probably lots of rituals of being, times in the day where you're just connecting to other people and there's nothing on the to-do list, or you just have a long meal where you're just simply there to be. And I think we've managed to bring compulsive doing into pretty much every moment of our lives. So I think creating space where we can let go of that and just have time and space for being in our lives. So that's another thing that's been useful for me. One thing that's taught me is that there is such an amazing potential to the human mind that prior to bringing awareness and exploring this for myself, I just had no idea. And I thought we could maybe end with a discussion about the far reaches of awareness and the full potential that all of us have once we start exploring and discovering these qualities. So maybe we could talk a little bit from a scientific point of view and from the point of view of the ancient Tibetan tradition. But Rinpoche, maybe we could start with your view, what the tradition says about the full potential of the mind beyond just getting a little less distracted.
Yeah, so in the in Buddhism, we talk about our mind is like treasure, unlimited treasure that we can discover within ourselves. So normally when we think about the treasure, we go look outside, right? Of course, there's some treasure outside there, but the real treasure is in you. And normally we don't feel like that way. And actually we are more than what we believe. So there's so much when we begin this journey, there's so much discovery within yourself. So normally I'm sharing this, I never feel bored because this journey, this practice is exciting. And this practice is really helping me to have aha moment time to time. And then there's a new way to work with the thought, emotion, perception, everything. And there's so many amazing things that can see around. Just seeing the trees, houses, in that moment, you can see awareness, you can see love and compassion, you can see wisdom. Even physical sensation, although there's a pleasant and unpleasant sensation exist, but nature of that sensation is awareness, love and compassion, wisdom. So it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like happiness. But that happiness is not the same as happiness of drinking coffee, you know. So drinking coffee happiness, you go high for 20 minutes, then you go low. But even you're high, you might still feel the hollowness, dissatisfaction, incompleteness, something is missing, something insecurity there. But then the happiness discovered within yourself is much more profound happiness than winning lottery or happiness from fame, power, money, because these happiness coexist with the hollow, missing, dissatisfaction, incomplete. But the happiness discovering inside, the hollowness will transform, will feel feeling of complete, contentment, joy. But of course, having said that, we will not experience these things at the beginning. As Richie mentioned, at the beginning, you feel like you're getting worse. You feel like so bored, you know. This practice doesn't make sense. I will not get anywhere. Rather than I want to watch my favorite show, or do this scrolling with my phone, or just let's meet with my friends, talk about exciting stuff, then rather than this boring thing. So what we call at the beginning, what we call waterfall experience. So waterfall experience meaning looks like getting worse. So water comes from a mountain, moving, rushing, sparing a lot of waters. It's all over the place. It's really rough. So we will discover at the beginning, there's a lot of thought, a lot of emotion, all these things. So it looks like getting worse. Another traditional example is if there's a cup, empty cup, dry, you don't see much dirty. But when you want to clean, put some drop of water, then all the dirty come out. And looks like cup become more dirty. But actually, not become more dirty. Or another example, traditional example is when the river become muddy, we don't see fish. When the river become clear, we see a lot of fish. So these are the first experience. Then slowly, what we call river-like experience. So then our mind become more pliable, walkable. So when we say no pizza, you will not think about pizza. When you say think about loving kindness, compassion, be with the concentration, you can concentrate. So what we call the monkey mind, listen to us. You become the boss. So mind become pliable and walkable. But still there's a lot of turbulence, but it doesn't disturb you. And special, you will find background of this thought and emotion, there's unchangeable awareness. Though that awareness is not permanent, but also not impermanent. It's beyond permanent and impermanent. So then later, what we call like leg experience. So then the awareness, love and compassion, wisdom, you don't have to meditate there. It is you. Your mind is with these three qualities. So then after a certain level become effortless. And it manifests through eyes, ear, nose, tongue, bodily sensation, even pain, even dullness in the emotion level. All the emotion, nature of all the emotion will fully recognize, infused with these three qualities. So then really happy. Deeper level, very happy. Though you feel sad sometimes, you might have turbulence of emotions, but all this is surface level. It doesn't disturb inner level. So this is the like general, simple 3 steps that how this practice will discover within ourselves through the ancient style.
Richie, I know you've done a little research. I know we're going to turn to some great questions that have come in, but maybe before we do, if you could share a little bit about this idea of effortless awareness, because I know that you've had some interesting research on what Rinpoche is talking about.
Yeah, just very briefly, because I'm mindful of time and we want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. But there is this phenomenon that as we practice more and more, this quality of being effortlessly um, able to just recognize the nature of our mind, it becomes more and more familiar. The prefrontal cortex has been associated with this kind of effortful, willful directing, and that's important, and it's really helpful in the initial stages. But then after we become more and more experienced, it begins to drop out, and we can just very, very briefly activate the prefrontal cortex, very transiently, and then the activation just goes right back down to baseline, and we can simply be with whatever it is. It might be with our bodies, our breathing. It might be with something external, but this quality of being able to just let go and be is associated with this dropping down of the prefrontal cortex, letting go of the effort, and just allowing ourselves to be. But this is something that takes time, step by step, and after some time, we can cultivate these skills.
Thank you so much, Richie. So we're going to turn to some of your questions now. And a quick reminder that we really want to hear both these questions and also your stories. So if you haven't had a chance to put your name on the list for the emails we're going to send out, please do that if you're interested, because we want to continue this dialogue that is starting here through emails. And we're even thinking of creating maybe a WhatsApp group where we can have a little bit more dialogue and back and forth. So please be sure to sign up if that's of interest to you. So we're going to do a speed round with questions. We've got a lot of great questions and not a lot of time. So we'll try to keep our answers concise. And there's a first one here that is a great one for you, Rinpoche, from one of our German listeners. And the question is, I find myself intentionally distracting myself from my mind because I just can't stand the fear and sadness I encounter there. How should I deal with this?
So there are, of course, 3 styles, right? So removal, maybe if you are in the situation where environment or situation where there are constantly a lot of object of fear or anxiety. For example, if you don't like your neighbor and always the neighbor is the circumstances, then it's very difficult. It triggers you all the time, right? So then maybe you can manage time when the neighbor go to work. You don't have to go to work. Or if you can manage, I mean. So maybe you can manage time. You can manage environment. Or if the relationship is very toxic and not helping you and your other party, or your company is really, become toxic, and the work is not helping company is not helping you, you can remove. You can change your job. You can change even relation or whatever relationship. So these are removal things. And the second thing is transforming. So if you really don't like, you really like to distract it, let distract it, but observe that distraction. So whatever distraction, let it go and feel the distraction. And you don't need to change the distraction, but now distraction becomes support for awareness. So the technique like thought meditation, something. Or you can do with the compassion like that way, wisdom like that way. Maybe you will learn these things later.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So there's another good one, this one coming in Spanish, and it's about ADHD. Good one for you, Richie. Is there scientific evidence of whether meditation can help improve the evolution of patients with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and thus reduce the doses of pharmacological medication that they may take? Thank you for these interesting talks. Richie, what does the science say?
Yeah, so the science says yes, we can, to some extent, at least, improve our attention, even among people who have a formal diagnosis of ADHD. And there are some data that indicate that those individuals can maintain an improved level of attention and at the same time decrease the medication that they're taking. And just to be clear, I'm not someone who's anti-medication, but I do think that the amount of medication and the prevalence is overused. We can decrease the extent to which we're medicating ourselves and our children, but the judicious use of these medications may be important in certain situations.
Thank you, Richie. So this one has a very traditional term. The question is, what is luminosity? Buddhist teachers use that word like I should understand what it means. What does light have to do with consciousness? So Rinpoche, needless to say, a good one for you.
So luminous meaning not knowing, not seeing, not experience. Like you close your eyes, you close your ear, it's dark. But when you open, you see, you hear, you smell. So it's like light. If you illuminate light in the room in the nighttime, then the room become illuminated, right? So our mind knows, feels, understand, experience. So that quality of knowingness. So this compare with the light. As I mentioned, it's not unconscious, right? But then when we look at the deeper level, even feeling of dull, dark, unclear is luminosity, because we experience this feeling. We experiencing dullness. So therefore, the luminous meaning knowing, experiencing, recognizing. But there's one thing is very important, is what we call self-luminosity. And that luminosity no need to have subject, no need to have object. And that is the beyondness. Your mind has that knowing quality, but that knowing no need to have an object. No two things. not dualistic. Lamp illuminate itself. The flame is the light. So there's true luminosity, illuminating others, our mind, and mind is luminosity.
Thank you. So maybe we can end on a practical note, which is somebody wrote in, do you have any routines or suggestions for developing focus? It's becoming harder to read and put my phone down. So my guess is we all have, all three of us probably have our own practices or things that have helped. But Richie, do you want to start? And then, of course, Rinpoche would love to hear any practical suggestions you have.
Yeah, I mean, I really, I think, use all three strategies: remove, transform, and transcend. Remove, one of the strategies I use is to simply keep my phone in my pocket, really pretty much the whole day. I take it out if I really need it, but I don't take it out of my pocket unless I absolutely need it. And I'm, amazed at how it helps me to just keep it away from myself, so that I don't sort of fall into um, uh, mindless use of it. So that's one strategy that I use.
Thanks, Richie. Rinpoche, what if you could just recommend one simple practice that people could do easily in their daily life? Is there something that you can think of that has helped you?
So for me, it's important is the length of time. Maybe I want to build new habit. Maybe sometime I think about 21 days. A small thing to avoid or transformation, whatever you do, just think about not too much at the beginning, like 5 minutes of meditation for 21 days. After 21 or maybe 30 days later, the habit begin to form. Then easy. So this building habit is very important.
Thank you. I would say what came to mind for me is the period when I first started to meditate. I was 19 years old. This is back in the early 90s. And I was in college and I was delivering pizzas. And so I was just driving around all the time. And I noticed that I had a habit of filling the space. I'd listen to music or listen to something. And I started just turning that off and instead bringing awareness into my body. It was the simplest thing, but just using ordinary daily activities where I would fill the space with something else and instead making it a bodily awareness practice. That completely changed my life in those years. And it's something I still do to this day. And you can do it really no matter what you're doing, who you're with, you can do it. So I think that's it for today. There's a lot of other great questions, and hopefully, as I said, we can answer these in other ways. So we look forward to staying connected with you all. And next week we're gonna continue on with this with our third session, which is on emotional imbalance, another thing that is incredibly common these days. And I just want to thank, of course, you, Rinpoche, and Richie for taking the time, for Dinara and the whole team of coordinating this, and especially for all of you taking time out of your busy life. We know it's a Saturday, a lot of things you could be doing. So we are honored that you chose to spend it with us. So I think we've got a few closing announcements. I believe Dinara is going to hop back on. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Cord, Richie, and Mingyur Rinpoche, and especially thank you for sharing tips, sharing, how to live this life full of distractions, especially with how busy you are. It's really inspiring to see that, if you can somehow get on with these distractions, then everyone can. We will eventually learn to do that. So yes, we have a few important announcements. First is if you want to sign up for this mailing list, you can find a link in resources on Zoom and in YouTube description, in the description of the event on YouTube. I know that not all of you have see the chat, so it's in the description to the event. So please sign up. And also, yes, in the resources, you can also find information about the next week. And I will always share this information now. So if we can have the slides now, please. Yes, so the first important announcement is that the application period for meditation teacher program for the next year has started. And yeah, we are very happy to invite anyone who wants to become a teacher of meditation for yourself and also to share it with others, to please join this program. It's led by Mingyur Rinpoche himself and also by a team of professional Tergar guides. And it consists of recorded asynchronous materials as well as live sessions and sessions with your mentor. And it's about 240 hours altogether, about 7-8 hours per week, that you can actually kind of be flexible with it. Yes, and it will last about a year, and after that you will become a certified meditation teacher, certified by Tergar and Mingyur Rinpoche. So please, if you are interested, just investigate it on training.tergar.org, and you can apply there as well. Also, that this year it will be kind of presented in a few languages if you are interested, not only in English. So you can find all this information here on this webpage. And the next one, please. Also unique opportunity to explore anytime, anywhere meditation program with Mingyur Rinpoche himself on May 31st and June 1st. This is the program, very, very simple program about how to apply meditation skills in your daily life. So please come, join. And also, if you have some friends or people that you care about that want to get to know meditation maybe for the first time, this is a perfect opportunity to do so. So please go to events.tergar.org and you can find the link in the chat now and register for this event. And the next one, please. Yes, so this is information about the next session in the series of Born to Flourish talks with Cortland, Richie, and Mingyur Rinpoche. And this is next Saturday, same time. And it will be on Befriending Your Emotions, a guide to self-discovery. And yes, it will be again perfect opportunity to know how to combine ancient Buddhist wisdom and modern science, and what powerful techniques you can use to make your difficult emotions actually a gateway to greater ease and resilience. So please again join us on YouTube and Zoom. So thank you again. Thank you for watching us and for all your questions. Thank you, Mingyur Rinpoche, Court, Richie, and thank you all the team behind the scenes.
Thanks,
Have a great-
everyone.
Thank you, Didara. Thank you.